Knights fans, and welcome to another edition of River Ridge Knights Football Podcast featuring head coach Mike Collins. We're here tonight at the Daily Draft, who is a great host. We'd like to thank them. Also, we'd like to thank the River Ridge Quarterback Club and the Booster Club members who are in attendance tonight. Thanks for being here, Coach. This podcast is actually getting pretty popular. I got people asking me, like, when's the next one coming out?
I think that's all about you.
No, stop. It's about Coach. Anyway, let's get to some highlights since we last talked. All right, so I'd like to get your thoughts on, since we were last here, your thoughts on the Woodstock game. It seemed like it was a total team effort.
It was. The game started out, it was tough. They gave us a good fight early. It was first region game, county rival, so they came out. They were pretty enthusiastic. So first quarter was kind of back and forth, and we were able to make a play on offense. We hit MJ Ayers on the deep ball early in the second quarter, and I think we got our momentum going. Things just kind of rolled on from there. So it was good to get that first region win. It's always good to get a county win.
That was good. I'd like to schedule Woodstock for our first region wins in the future. Now, Sequoia.
Yes, sir.
The Sequoia game was tough. Mm-hmm. Did we beat ourselves?
No, I don't want to take any credit from Sequoia. They played a good game. I think this section will be the good, bad, and the ugly. We start with the good with Woodstock. It was just this is the ugly part. I think it was a little bit of everything. They played well. I don't feel like we played up to our fullest potential, and there's just a weird night. We got some tough breaks on offense. A couple inches here and there on a couple of plays, or maybe take a penalty away on special teams, and it's a different result. But that's just how the region goes. It comes down to 1 or 2 possessions and 1 or 2 plays, and they were able to get the victory.
And because of the hurricane, we had to move to a Thursday night start. Do you think that affected anything?
I don't know. It could be. I don't want to make any excuses, but the 2 games that we've lost so far have been both of those games have been a little bit different as far as the routine goes. The one game started really late on a Friday night, and then this game was moved to a Thursday. But at the end of the day, both teams were in the same situation. You got to go play football, and they played better than we did, and they had more points than we did. So they get the victory. We just have to learn from it and move on.
You're right. And lastly, from last Friday, we talked briefly about Creekview. They just wouldn't go away, would they?
They never do. When River Ridge and Creekview gets together, it's going to always come down to a last-second something. So I think my first year played them, we missed sending it into overtime by like a half a yard, and then the next year we went into overtime, and then another overtime game this last Friday. And what a game! Both groups I thought left it on the field. It was a real physical football game. Momentum swings back and forth. Both crowds were really enthusiastic and into the game. It was a great high school atmosphere, the best you could ask for, and I'm just glad we came out on top.
That was a fun night. All right, now let's hear from our wonderful sponsors.
CDJR of Woodstock proudly supports our local football teams, the River Ridge High School Knights. Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Woodstock is honored to support River Ridge High. And
we're back. Coach, I'd like to briefly talk about the players of the weeks since we missed it. For Woodstock, I have them listed here. On offense, you had Isaiah Coughlin and Paul Canero.
Yeah, Paul is our left tackle, did an outstanding job of giving Speck some time to throw and opening some holes for Isaiah. Isaiah split some time at running back that night, but it was like, if I can remember, like 3+ touchdowns, 130+ yards rushing. Also had a lot of, maybe like 80 yards receiving. So he was all over the place, and a great night for him and Paul on offense.
And towards the end of the game, when you pulled the starters, Isaiah was still out there. Working with some of the younger guys that you had in the fourth quarter.
He was, and just opportunity for him to show some leadership and us to get him some work in at another position. So I was proud to see him do that.
On defense, we had Brendan Dye, senior Brendan Dye.
Yeah, the general I like to call him. He controls the defense, controls the front. He played an outstanding game, led us in tackles, had 15 tackles. A couple pass breakups, 3 or 4 tackles for a loss. He was all over the field, and don't have enough good things to say about him.
Yeah, Brenda's one of those emotional players that we talked about,
yes, sir,
I think,
absolutely.
On podcast 1. Special teams, you have Cam Jackson.
Cam Jackson is a young man that we challenged early in the year for a role to play on our special teams. He's one of our fastest players. He's on our kickoff team, and he really stepped into that role this year, and I think that was his coming out party at Woodstock. Had like 3 tackles on the kickoff team, and 2 were solo. And since that game, it's just like been phenomenal on the kickoff team. So I was proud to hear the coaches nominate him for this award, and the sky's the limit for him in that role.
It is. I've been watching Cam for many years also. He's an awesome player, awesome teammate. Sequoia, we'll jump right to defense. Player of the week that week was Will Hughes.
Will Hughes. Sequoia runs that wing T offense, so it's tough. It's a physical offense. You got to read your keys because there's things going on all over the place. You got to be really disciplined. He played a very disciplined game against Sequoia, 3 or 4 tackles for a loss, led us in tackles, and another inside linebacker like Brendan. He's a year younger, but you can kind of see him slowly stepping into that role that we're going to need him in the future.
Yeah, he's fearless too. And special teams was MJ Ayers.
MJ had to take over punt return duties. We had our punt returner went down in early in the game, so he had to take over that duty. And he also had a big explosive play, kickoff return. Unfortunately, we didn't get it because it was called back, but just all over the field, punt return, punt, and kickoff.
Yeah, he's a pretty exciting player. This week for Creekview, I don't have them listed because you're going to unveil them now.
I am. We're going to start with offense, and we're going with 2 players. One is Jackson Head. Jackson led us in receiving, which is it's kind of common for him to lead us in receiving, and a touchdown reception. But he also blocking. His blocking was incredible Friday night. Played real physical football game. So happy to give him that award. And then we're going to split that with Grayson Van Gilder, our kicker. So 2 for 2 PATs, another field goal during regulation, and then another field goal to win the game.
Yeah. For defense.
Defense, we're going to go with a familiar name, led us in tackles with 14 tackles, somehow had 2 tackles for a loss at safety. We had an injury in the secondary, so he kind of took on that leadership role, that encouragement role, and that is Matthew Lipsy. I think this may be his second or third one, so we're happy to give him that award as a junior. He's doing an outstanding job being a general of that secondary.
He is. I'd see him leading some of those other kids on there, and you're right. With Chase being in and not getting the reps,
outstanding job. And believe it or not, he's kind of the senior spokesman back there. He's just a junior, but I feel like he's been around forever. So he's kind of taking on that role that you would think a senior would take on, but he's doing it because he's played a lot of football for us.
That's great. Special teams from Creekview game.
Special teams, we're going to go with 2 things. First, we're going to go with Christian Panzera, who actually tipped the overtime field goal. If you watch it on film, it's going in, and it kind of takes just enough of a right to hit the upright. So he was the person that got a tip on that. So happy to give him that award. And we're going to go with the entire kickoff unit for the River Ridge Knights also as our special team player. That unit is just doing an outstanding job of covering kicks, and just excited to watch them run down and make plays.
That is great. Now, before we get to your thoughts on Rome, we're going to hear from another one of our great sponsors. All right, Coach, let's hear what you think about our next game versus Rome.
This is a good football team we're about to be up against. We played this football team 2 years ago at our place in December in the playoffs. And when I say we played this football team, I don't mean that we just played Rome. We played this football team. They were freshmen and sophomores at the time we played them. It's literally pretty much the same team. They're just a couple years older. They're got a tough defensive front with a couple of Power 5 commits, a Clemson commit, and an SEC commit in the secondary. So they're going to be a physical team on defense. We're going to have to be balanced. Offensively, it's the same quarterback, same running back, same receiver. So they're older, they're a balanced attack, so we'll have to be real sound defensively, and we're going to have to make some plays on special teams. But it's homecoming. It's a region game, and I look forward to it, and I think our guys are going to come out and give it a good fight.
Let's lead into our Q&A. Do you think it evens things out playing them at home? Because you've seen the scores of the other games where they've played some of our rivals. So do you think that evens it out? We got them at home.
I think if you ask me would I rather go to Rome play at River Ridge, and my answer is absolutely I'd rather play at the Ridge. I'd rather them travel compared to us. And if you look at how things are going on in the region, it looks like the home team does maybe have a little bit of an advantage. So I hope that'll come to fruition on next Friday.
I think we're going to do our best with that one, yes. All right, now for our Q&A. Let's go with the first one I have here. First question from Booster Club member in the audience. With a tough opponent like Rome coming up, they've heard a lot of talk that we have lost already. How do you keep the boys focused?
I hope that talk's not coming from anybody in our camp. I know we don't speak that way. I think that unfortunately maybe that's been a little bit of talk about us all the time. I think if you were asking a lot of people outside of our camp, who do they predict to win these games, a lot of times River Ridge is not their answer. So I think that's the position that we're in, but we don't pay any attention to outside noise. We call it outside water. We have a saying that it's the outside water that sinks the boat. So we don't bring that water into our boat. And we're going to focus on what our philosophy always is just being a better football team every day, every drill, every day. And we play one play at a time, and we just block out all the other noise. And I think as long as you shrink the big picture into that small approach, we will at least play the best of our ability.
I have another. This was a good question. I read this one earlier, and a lot of parents probably want to know this one. How are the weekly captains of the game chosen, and why is there one that stays on the sideline?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a few different ways. First, at the first of the season, they're chosen by pretty much me. I'll choose them with a little help from the coaches based on how did the offseason go, et cetera. We did something a little different this year where after we chose the first 4 captains, we allowed those captains to pick the next week's captains. And we would let them know, like, on Wednesday, I'm going to have a meeting with you, and I want you to pick who you feel like should be captains. And we did that all the way up to about a couple of weeks ago. And now we're kind of back to the coaches picking them because everybody's pretty much most of the seniors have a chance to be a captain already. The fifth captain is probably my favorite, is the scout team player of the week. It's tough to be on the scout team, particularly on live action days where you're going to the ground and you're hitting. But you have to get that great look. So we want to do the best we can to let those guys know how much we appreciate them. So that fifth captain is the first captain that we announce on Fridays, and that's our scout team player of the week. And he walks out with our captains on Fridays.
I like that. I like that fifth guy being the scout captain. How do you? And we've talked about leadership before. I think this year's varsity squad, with a couple sports, they seem like they've been smaller, but they've been more vocal. This question is, how do you feel the leadership for the varsity team has been this year? I
think it's been exceptional. I do. The most important thing is the leadership that I've witnessed by example. I think from the Sequoia week to the Creekview week is the epitome of it. That was a tough loss for us. That's just not the game you want to lose. That's the neighbor, that's the game. So you have every opportunity after that situation to just, go into that next week with your head low. You're down and out. But our team bounced back, and they won a tough game the very next week, which I think was incredible. And you can't do that without locker room leadership. You can't do that without understanding what the next play means and no blinking. So when I say exceptional, I have to refer to that as just that great example that our seniors and our juniors are doing of just playing the next play. We're not going to get too down. We're just going to keep on keeping on, as we say. So it's been exceptional.
No, that's awesome. And you and I have at least that in common. We've talked about Sequoia Week and how our feelings on that. We'll talk about that afterwards. Another question we have, what are your thoughts on this year's freshman team?
Super excited about this class of freshmen. They have everything you need, and that's really rare. We've got offensive linemen, we've got defensive linemen, we've got a linebacking core that I really like and really excited about. We've got a quarterback that's actually playing another position for us on varsity, but that experience is just going to help him. A really good running back, a physical running back, a slot receiver that's electric, receivers on the outside that can stretch the field. So they've got it all. We just got to make sure that we can continue to develop them, and I'm excited. They got a great class in front of them with sophomores, and there's another class behind them in 8th grade. So when you look at all of that, it makes me really excited about the future of River Ridge.
I agree. I totally agree on every point. This goes back to what you were talking about after the Sequoia loss. What did you tell the boys, and what did you tell them to move past that loss?
I told them that they were my day ones. So you guys are my day ones. Like you're the only group that's been through here, my seniors, that's been with me from day one. Y'all are my day one players, my day one guys. So all you know is what I've taught you about how to approach the game of football. So I'm going all the way back to what we said day one. One of the first mottos we came up with was no blinking. So we're not going to blink. This is a tough loss. We didn't play well, but we're not going to blink. This is why we do this. We're going to go back to one practice at a time, one play at a time. We're not going to flinch. We're going to play hard as we can next week, and we're going to accept the consequences of those actions. And that was the speech all week. And thankfully, they responded to it, and we were fortunate enough to have more points that next week, so you can kind of lean on that speech as you move forward. Yeah.
No, I agree. Obviously, they responded well to that speech. I have a question, at least one. I pulled up the film, watched it a couple times after Friday, which was awesome because we won, but when a play goes wrong, maybe a call seems pretty bad at the time. Everyone's emotional. The fans are emotional. How do you get the team to keep them to keep focused at hand, to stay focused?
I won't sound like a broken record now. That's a great question. But we talk all the time about the ups and downs of a football game. There's always going to be a storm. There's going to be plays that just aren't going to go your way, whether Coach Collins sends in one that he thought was going to work, which is a great call till it doesn't work, by the way, but sometimes it just happens, right? So you go back to play the next play. Play the next, control the things you can control. Don't blink, don't flinch. Just play the next play. And I think you try to lay that groundwork before it happens, so when it does happen, you have something that you can refer to. Hey, this is why we talked about this. This is that moment. This is that storm that we talked about. And actually Friday, it was probably reversed. They were probably telling me that, like, coach, the next play, we're going to be all right, which is awesome for our guys. But they were probably calmer than I was at certain moments of the game on Friday. But just go back to your day one coaching and teaching and philosophy of things that you've already instilled in them.
No, I agree. Just it doesn't matter how the game goes or what. You can't let anybody else dictate the game except how you play.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't have a last question. That's pretty much it. Last podcast we focused on the offensive coordinator, and that was awesome. You told me all kinds of stuff here. The defensive coordinator, I want to know a little bit about because he's also a motivating coach.
Yes, sir.
The kids call him Coach T, and please don't ask me to pronounce his last name. It's a very long name.
Yes,
But tell me about Coach T's profile and how he gets the kids motivated on defense.
Coach T's an old soul, an old school guy. He was referred to me from a good friend of mine, one I trust. I told him I was looking for somebody to come in and run our defense a couple years ago, and he mentioned Coach Tuzenot to me, and got in contact with him, and we hit it off right away. We had kind of the same philosophical beliefs about life and football, so we were able to bring him in, and he hit the ground running that first year. He's just a great leader, a thinker. He's always, I feel like, 2 plays ahead. He's a worker. Like, his truck's there early and it's there late. Again, he's kind of an old school guy. He's got a college coaching background. No one of our coaches with a college coaching background. Played college ball. He's been coaching high school ball for a long time. He was at Cal for a while. Was very influential on taking those teams deep into the playoffs on the defensive side. And moved from there and actually did some time at River Ridge before going to Cal. And then ended up at Sequoia for a couple of years and was a part of that long playoff run that they had a few years back. And we were able to reel him in over here to the Ridge, and it was one of the best things I've done.
Now, he had no offensive experience because as a defensive coordinator, don't you need to see the offense?
I think it helps. He's tinkered on the offensive side of the ball a little bit as well. He's been around for a while, so he's coached some running backs, and his resume is almost as long as mine. So there's some offensive experience in there also.
All right, that is awesome. One more thing I have it written down here. I have to ask. No school today, no practice for the boys. Does that mean it's an off day for Coach Collins?
No, sir. There's not an off day for Coach Collins. I get to hang out with them, which is awesome. So that was the first thing I was looking forward to today. And then the other thing was, we've been watching film. We analyzed our game. We did take the weekend off, so we were able to push Sunday's work to today. So we were able to analyze our game, watch our game, and we were able to get started on our next opponent as well. But that was a few hours of work today, and then prepare for tomorrow's practice.
Quick injury update. I got 2 kids on my mind real quick. Andrew Hand, how's he doing?
He's still day-to-day. He was a game-time decision on Friday, but it was a no-go. Obviously, he didn't play. But we got this off week that we want to try to take advantage of. He's doing some great job rehabbing, and the Northside group's doing a great job working with him. So we're optimistic with this off week that we can hopefully have him next Friday.
And Isaiah Coughlin, I saw him get wobbly during the Creekview game. What happened?
Yeah, he went down, I think, early third quarter, I believe it was, or late second maybe. He's another day-to-day young man. We'll be able to get him in the room tomorrow and kind of see where he is. I've been speaking with him. He feels good. Feels like he's in pretty good shape. But, of course, that'll be up to the trainers and doctors to see how long that's going to be. But, again, this is a great time to have an off week after playing a team like Creekview. It's perfect timing. And Sequoia, having those games back-to-back, that's pretty much as physical as it can get. So it's a great time to have an off week. So hopefully we can get both of those guys back next Friday.
No, you're right. The scheduling this year, it seems, Sequoia and Creekview are pretty much the toughest teams in this county. So facing them back to back and then having that bye to rest, it's got to.
I'm going to let Dan say that. We still have to play Etowah, so I didn't say that. So it's a tough team coming up eventually down the road too. So
I promise I did not forget about Etowah. If their fans even log in and watch this, no, I did not forget about Etowah. All right, Coach, thank you as always. It's awesome. I want to thank the Daily Draft again for hosting us. They're great hosts. It's a lot of fun. They have a great staff here. I want to thank the River Ridge Quarterback Club, their board members, and the Booster Club members who are in attendance. Thank you all, and we'll see you again next time.
always awesome.